You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 274 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me, as always,
Roger Phipps.
And Ben Stout.
There you go.
And on this week's show, we're going to get this right, down go the dogs. Fast, fun, furious, we break down the offense and defense. It's game week, and it's time to pluck the angry birds. We go inside the huddle with Knightline's football analyst, Neal. We have a 12-team playoff. It's back, and the Big 12 is open for business. Your questions in Ask Knightline, the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week, and news and notes.
Wow, that's a lot. I don't know if we'll get to all that, but yeah, cool. All right. Well, week one is over. It was a great win. I was happy with the way that it came out for sure. 56-10 win over South Carolina State. All right. So I started off with Trey the same way. You'll hear that a little bit later. Just your first thoughts on this the game. Just what was your initial thoughts?
I thought JRP was impressive. I thought he showed his athleticism. That was fantastic to see. Our transfers on offense are really dynamic with Javon Baker and Keymore Gamble. Love seeing the tight ends get involved. And then defensively, I just thought we were creative. I thought we showed some creativity, especially with our blitzes, that was encouraging to see. It seemed like they were flying around the ball. I think defensively, they really, really looked energetic and solid on defense. I'm excited to see what they can bring to the table.
All right, Roger.
All right, I'm going to use those same three words, fast, fun, and furious, right? So it's been a while since we got excited about an offense, and watching this offense, I was excited, and cue the clip. But realistically speaking, this offense was dynamic. We had this question about John Rice Plumlee and whether he could pass, even with 4 dropped passes. Man, I can't talk tonight. That's 65% completion percentage for this game. So he was slinging the ball. He got it out quickly. It was a tight spiral. It had good velocity. So I was very impressed with his passing ability. Obviously, we knew he could run. He showed that as well. And it made the offense way more dynamic. It wasn't tunnel screen or reverse to Ryan O'Keefe all game like we saw a lot of last season. We saw him throw the ball. We saw the tight ends get used. And we definitely saw that he was fleet with his feet, and he made a huge difference in this game. So I'm excited to see what he can do against a stiffer competition, but very, very impressed with his debut. And defensively, Ben really said it. The defensive line really pulled their weight. They were in the backfield often, and they were fast. And, 5 passes defended this game, so the defensive backs did their job too. Andrew?
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate having a chance. Jeez. That was weird. So I was one of the people that really questioned John Rice Plumlee. Wasn't sure what was going to happen there. Knew that he could run. I always knew that. I'd seen what he did, at Ole Miss when he played quarterback and all that stuff. So we knew that could happen. I was a little worried about the passing. Wasn't sure. He'd been playing wide receiver, probably for a reason. That's just what I thought. I mean, why would they not have him play? You have Corral, I guess, which was a pretty good quarterback there at Ole Miss, but. I just wondered okay, well, why is the guy playing wide receiver if he's really a quarterback? That was my initial thoughts into the whole thing. Well, he's obviously fast. He's obviously a baller, no matter what. You can never not call that guy a baller from now on. Because, holy Moses, is he fast.
Yeah.
And he throws good, too.
Right.
So I'm happy. Now, there were some decisions that he made that I wasn't really totally happy with, some that I was holding my breath, some throws that he made. Luckily, one of those throws was to
Ryan
O'Keefe, which he made a spectacular catch.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Keefe, and I say this when we talked to Trey as well, wow. That guy, he is literally now one of my favorite players, and he wasn't before, no, not really for any reason, but man, the stuff that he did during this game was insane. Showed pure heart and athleticism both. That catch that he made and running down the guy, that picked up the fumble.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fumble as well, though I will put on John Rice. If he's carrying the ball so much and running and all this, he still needs to hold on to that ball.
Yeah, he's got to be careful.
Yes, it was probably wet out there, blah, 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 but that stuff, we don't need that stuff to be happening. A few throws that he made that he should have thrown away that, and I think that just comes with time, and playing the position a little bit more and kind of being a little smarter out there. Another thing smarter that he needs to do is to slide a little bit or figure out some way not to just go bashing these dudes. There were guys that he literally left laying on the field. Their players that he ran over, literally like 2 or 3 times. There were guys laying on the field.
Yeah,
he played like Blake Bortles in the way that he lowered the shoulder and did the those were Blake things you saw him do. Now Blake's significantly bigger than what John Rice Plumlee is, and to your point, that sliding to keep him for that season and keep him dynamic. He needs to be practicing with the baseball team.
He did slide a couple times. I'm actually watching it over here, watching the replay now. I just worry he's wearing that same number, that number 10. We all have a little bit of, I say, PTSD in the back.
I think it's an accurate term.
Because I do, because I will never ever forget. I was sitting right up here in my little loft area watching it on TV. And I will never forget. I will never forget that moment. That's another story.
Yes.
But every time he takes off running, I'm kind of like, oh God, like slide or whatever. And it didn't seem like he wanted to do that. And he runs a lot like McKenzie. He does. He takes off, and sometimes he took off where he probably didn't need to. He took off a little bit fast. But overall, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. There's no question. It took me a couple days, and I'm kind of glad that we had a few days to take it all in and all that stuff between then and this show now. It's Monday night. Because it allowed me to think about it a little bit, watch it back a couple of times. So very impressed with the way that he played, especially running the ball. I will say that y'all knew, and I said it on here last week, and I was on a show with Chase Bunker, his podcast last week as well, and I said it there. The one thing I was worried about with the linebackers, I'm not worried about the linebackers anymore. I'm not concerned really at all with the defense. I think the defense played pretty dang good. Yes, this is a lower level opponent, but when I say that as well, if you don't know, South Carolina State is one of the top teams
FCS,
in the FCS and the HBCU or however you say it teams.
Mm-hmm.
They are one of the top ones. They were in the bowl game against Jacksonville State last year and just trounced them. So,
and returned 18 starters.
Yeah. So these guys are no joke.
And they have a 6'5" receiver who's going to play on Sundays.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and he was
There's multiple people on that team that'll play on Sundays.
You're absolutely right. And so he was basically insignificant in the game. And then also, like you mentioned the linebackers, Andrew. I think that the concern, and I'm using air quotes for those who are only listening because that's the only way you can do it. I am using air quotes. I think the concern about linebackers was about the mystery. We just didn't know because we have a lot of transfers besides JJB, right? Like we have a lot of transfers at linebacker, and what we saw in this first game was guys like Walter Yates just providing a ton of speed. And
I was like, who is this guy?
A nose for the football that we haven't even talked about Walter Yates.
Who is this guy?
You know, and he was all over the place. And then you got the night linebacker position with Justin Hodges and the true freshman Nakai Martinez. I mean, you just got a lot of different guys in that area of the field that made plays against this the opponent that they should make plays against, this FCS opponent. Yes, but we showed domination really throughout the game, especially on defense.
I loved the safety and corner blitzes.
Yes.
That was, the two guys that was Hodges and Nakai Martinez made sacks. Walter Yates led the team with 7 tackles. Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste was second with 5 total tackles, and then everybody else had 3, 2, 1. But it's very spread out. But besides those two guys that had a couple more than everybody else played their game.
Right.
They were all involved. So that's good. I want to go back real quick here to offense, and I just want to go through a couple stats. One of the things that I didn't realize until I saw the stats, and I went back and just was looking at yardage. It's one of the things that I always do, look at, how many passes versus throws, total yards. Holy Moses. 605, total yards. And I know that there's a little bit of, that they take out for losses and stuff like that. But total offense, 605 yards to 91, number one.
Right.
That's a lot of offensive yards. It happens when you have a quarterback that runs for 100 yards. So, number one. And if you're looking at that, Plumlee was 20 of 31 for 308 yards, 4 touchdowns thrown, and then at least 2, I think, run.
One on the ground.
One on the ground.
So we have 5 total touchdowns.
Yeah, 5 total touchdowns from him, but 20 of 31 is not bad. No interceptions, thank goodness. The one fumble, obviously, he got sacked twice. But then 16 carries for 116 yards with loss of 16, so net 100. 1 touchdown on there. The longest was 28 yards, averaged 6.3 on his carries. Isaiah Bowser, 22 carries for 76 yards, averaged 3.4. Isaiah Bowser, to me, is not the same guy as we had last year. And to me, and I don't know, I said this during the game, I was shocked when I saw him. I think he is much smaller than he was last year. And maybe that's them trying to keep him a little bit more healthy, maybe not as much weight and easier on the knees and all that stuff. I know that he's been, working out really hard, and they're treating him more like a pro. I wonder if they worked on nutrition or something with him a little bit. To me, he seems a lot smaller. And I think that may have had something to do with, the 3.4 yards per carry that he got. Obviously, he was still pretty effective. 76 yards, loss of 2, so net of 74. Johnny Richardson, 5 carries for 59 yards. His longest being 31. Ryan O'Keefe got the one end around for 33 yards, so he's in on the running. Another guy that I was super excited to see, Thomas Castellanos, got to see him there right at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But boy, did you see him take off and run.
I mean, he could have just he could have just taken his 4 or 5 snaps and
and
just
downed
hung
the
out.
ball.
Yeah, but
he ain't doing that.
He's like, forget that. I'm my back's to the end zone and I see this crease. I'm going to go for 32 yards here, and he looked.
You saw Plumlee. He's probably
dynamic.
like, "Oh yeah, Plumlee, you can run."
Yeah.
Let
me show
check
you.
this out.
He wanted to go in 6 minutes in, and he actually was putting his helmet on, and they told him to take it back off.
Yeah, no, I know. It's all good though, and I'm glad that we saw him.
Yeah.
True freshman. We've all been excited about him. Good to see him come out there, and I was like. During the game, we were talking, and I'm like, I want to see Castellanos come out. Yeah. And there he was. So I was kind of excited about that. Receiving, Javon Baker actually led 5 catches for 84 yards and a touchdown. Kenmore Gamble, 3 receptions, 82 yards and a touchdown. Ryan O'Keefe did not have a touchdown, but he made some incredible catches.
Well, yeah, he absolutely made some incredible catches, and not only that, but had our special teams not been so special, he would have had some great return yards.
That's another thing we can talk about here in a little while. Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. Punting, didn't have to punt too much. Two punts for Andrew Osteen, 93 yards, pretty good for averaging 46.5.
One was blocked.
One was blocked, yeah. I forgot about the block. So that's a special teams bugaboo that we have to talk about. And then the holding on those kickoff and punt returns that needs to be fixed. We left points on the board or on the field with a couple of those. So obviously we have some guys that can really return the ball.
Xavier Townsend, the freshman,
good.
he was the one who was running back the touchdown that got called back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
I thought even Devad Wilson did well on the punt returns as well.
And Orbowski, what do you say about why is he still kicking the ball? I have an issue with this. A 43-yarder, yes, but and I know it's the first game, blah, 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 but come on, Daniel Obarski.
Well, one of the things that Obarski, yeah, you said it right.
I know, I'm trying to say it right because I've never said his name right.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about years ago when Obarski was recruited to come here was that, man, this guy can kick the ball a mile. He's got a heck of a leg. He went through all last year not making a kick over 40 yards.
Yeah.
And so you line him up for a 43, 44-yarder, and it was from the right hash, and he just kicked it straight down the right hash, and it was gone. It was clearly wide right. You just kind of you're looking for the guy to do better. Gus really talked him up a couple of days after the game, saying he had a fantastic fall camp and that he's not worried about that. After the game.
After he did as well.
He said because he was asked about him. He was asked about him in the press conference, and he was very honest. He almost seemed like he wasn't concerned about that. That missed kick, he said, Daniel's going to do fine, and that it was the first time I had heard Gus say that he had a fantastic fall camp. It was really impressive in fall camp, and he said Riker Casey handling the kickoff duties, and he did a great job there. He said that is something that he thinks is really going to benefit Obarski, and so hopefully we see that. That was something that I was looking for, a 40-plus yard field goal to him give the chance in this South Carolina State game. And unfortunately, he got that chance and he didn't make it. And it's just you just kind of throw your hands up. You're like, man, we all want this guy to succeed because he's our kicker.
Absolutely.
And it's just, man, we need to see that part of the game done.
Speaking of Riker Casey, guy with 2 first names. Ricer, I don't know where that came from. That's funny. We're not going to edit this, though. I'm not editing any more of this. I'm not editing anymore.
Uncut.
Knightline Uncut. This is the new. That sounds weird, too. But anyway. Oh, boy. I'm going to get myself in trouble. So you don't look at kickoffs very often.
Right.
It's not a stat that is It's at the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I don't look at very often, but he kicked off 9 times, and 8 of those were touchbacks.
Yeah.
That's good.
He was kicking it through the back of the end zone.
Average 65 yards per kick.
Better than Obarski kicking it out of bounds every time.
Absolutely. And they were all in bounds.
Yes.
And so he totaled 587 yards in kickoffs. I didn't even know they kept, I really didn't know they kept that stat. But good job on him. Good to see him out there. So anybody that surprised, Ben, I'm going to start with you, I guess. Anybody who surprised you, I asked Trey the same question. Y'all hear this later. Anybody who really surprised you on either side of the ball that you were just like, whoa, who is this guy?
I think surprised me. I mean, only because I just didn't know a whole lot about him. I don't watch. I make a habit of not watching a whole lot of Gator football, but I was pleasantly surprised with Keymore Gamble. I mean, I think he adds a boost to this offense at the tight end position. He's just extremely athletic, and he's a big guy. And he talked after the game very honestly about why he left Florida. He talked with the new coaching staff there, and basically he figured out that as far as him being involved in the passing game there wasn't going to happen the way he wanted it to be. So he came over to UCF, and we got what we got in his debut in a Knights uniform. I mean, he added something to this offense that I think has been missing over the last few years, and he looks to be a big target for JRP, security blanket plus, I would say, and he could have had a few more catches and possibly at least one, maybe two more touchdowns. So to think he could have been more impressive in his debut is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we really haven't had a fast pass-catching tight end up until this point, and he fills that role. I mean, he, you mentioned it with Trey later, but he looks like a wide receiver out there in the tight end body. So, I think that's what he wanted. That's his game. He was talking about before the season how he was trying to learn some of the blocking a little bit better, right? Mm-hmm. So he had pass blocking down, but he didn't have run blocking. And we actually ran 60% of our plays in this game were running plays, right? So, he's going to learn that, and he's going to take that to the NFL because you need it. But you're right. I mean, I wasn't really surprised. I knew what kind of talent he was, but just his speed is what surprised me there. For me, it was Xavier Townsend. I mean, we've been hearing his name all camp, right? You hear it all over the field. You hear it from players. You hear it from coaches. You hear it from everybody else. We haven't really played as many freshmen that have had that chances as we have now. And knowing what the depth of this, of this team is, and the people that we brought in, for him to stand out, I think he proved it, and he showed a little glimpse of that on that return because his speed. I mean, he was booking. I think he would give Ryan O'Keefe a run for his money. He had great cuts. They were super clean, and he had great vision. He was looking at where those blocks would be set and where his opportunities were, and his burst was phenomenal. So I cannot wait until he gets more involved. Obviously, freshmen, and Gus talked about this. We all know this. High school football is completely different than college football. And as you get the mental game around that, Trey talked about that last week, the difference between college and high school. Mm-hmm. Once you see him get the mental game down, the blocking, all of that stuff, I can't wait to see him take off. He's going to be a good one for the next few years.
Yeah. All right, so my guy that surprised me, just because really I had to look it up to even see who he was.
Walter Yates?
Walter Yates, yeah. Led the team in tackles. We've seen this before. A guy comes from, the other FCS or whatever. He was at Savannah State. Came here as a grad transfer. Led the team in tackles. Does that sound familiar?
It does.
And he was a All-American, I believe, there as well. Just like the guy from last year, which was here a year, and I can't remember his name.
My gosh.
He got hurt.
He got hurt at the end of the year, yeah. But anyway, linebacker, we were worried. I was worried about linebackers. Not worried, especially because Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste played very well, but Walter Yates, I like that guy. He's a football player. And I'm excited to see. I think that he is going to do some special stuff, to be honest with you. So
I think he's got the raw talent. It'll be interesting to see how he stacks up against FBS schemes versus FCS schemes, right? If he's got, because look, he still played against an FCS team, which he's used to seeing those kinds of schemes. Well, let's see how he does when he's looking at FBS offenses.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I think that he has pure athleticism.
Agreed.
So I'm not really worried about the scheme or whatever for him. I just think he's going to be special. I think.
I like the players that, especially from the linebacker positions, it just seems to be always around the football, right? And he just seems to be one of those guys. Like, I think we talked about it a lot with certain players. It's just like he just seems like a football player.
Right.
Like he just seems like
so
a football player. So
it comes to my mind when I saw Tatum Bethune for the first time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that
he's a good
that
name.
was the thing that, like, I remember sitting there in the stadium watching, and I'm like, who's this guy? Oh, Tatum Bethune. Where did he come from? And I'm like, that guy is special. Well, this guy I feel like is the same kind of mold. We'll see what happens, but I was very impressed by the way that he played. So I'm very happy to see him playing there the way that he did in the linebacker position. And not nearly as worried as I was before. Defense, I'm pretty happy. And yes, this is a different team, and we'll see something completely different this next game, comparatively. And that game, obviously, against Louisville, will tell us a lot more about, how good we actually are. So we'll see about that. But
Bryson Armstrong.
Bryson
is the name we were
Armstrong,
trying
that's
to
right.
think of. I was looking it up.
Couldn't remember his name, and I felt bad that I couldn't remember that. But it's nothing new for me not to remember.
Shout out to Bryson Armstrong.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Exactly. Thank you for your service. Yeah. So. What else? What else do you guys want to talk about with this?
For me, there's a few things that kind of jumped out. I'm always looking at stats, and one of the things was the yards per pass. Last season, we averaged 6 to 7 yards per attempt, right? And that was a byproduct of who was the quarterback at that time, and I think us playing a little more conservative.
And the game plan, definitely held back.
Also a byproduct of what receivers you had as well. We have a much better receiver core.
I'd agree with that.
We had two guys last year for the majority of the season. We had
Brandon Johnson,
O'Keefe, and Brandon Johnson, because Flash was pretty much non-existent for most of the year. And I think that we have a group of people now that they're good receivers. I don't think any of them are Ryan O'Keefe. I still think he's the best one out there. But we definitely have more now. So I think that will help tremendously with what you were talking about.
Yeah, and Kobe Hudson, we didn't really see much out of him this game, right? And, those numbers that you were talking about for the leading receivers actually could have been higher because there were 4 drop passes during this game. So if John Rice Plumlee had those back, he would have completed 77% of his pass attempts.
How about Javon Baker?
Yeah. Like, he dropped a couple. I mean, he dropped a couple, but he still played really, really well. Amari Johnson is another name we've heard a lot about, his speed, etc. He dropped one, but he's getting sprinkled in.
He must have dropped the only one that he was thrown to then, because he's not on
reception.
he didn't have a reception. So
Jalen
Griffin. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Amari Johnson's injured. Sorry. Jalen Griffin is who I was thinking of. Jalen Griffin is someone they were talking about in camp as well. And seeing him pop up on the depth chart and seeing him pop up on the stats, that's another speed guy. And I think across the board, when I'm looking at us both offensively and defensively, that's the thing that jumps out. We just have so much speed. I mean, that's something we had... in that 2017 team, Trey mentions AK, right? We had Otis. Otis was fast. This team, in between Richardson, O'Keefe, and JRP, I mean, all of them are fast, and the receivers are fast. So I see Javon Baker. He's that guy with the sure hands. He's the guy that can make the tough catches. He's the, for me, he kind of looked like the guy that JRP was going to, that he was going to throw the ball, and he had a pretty good understanding that he was going to catch it. So he's that safety valve for me for JRP when it comes to long pass plays. And, people are going to be keying in on O'Keefe because he's so versatile. I think that's going to open things up for the rest of the receivers. And to your point, Andrew, last season we didn't have that. We had two guys that they really had to cover, and that was it.
And now when you have 4 and 5 guys that you need to cover, it opens up a lot more.
Do you think that's the reason why in this game, hopefully only this game, like Bowser just didn't jump off the page to you? You think because I feel like last season we
I just
had
think
to rely on
there's something different with him.
Yeah,
I feel
I don't
it's
know
weight,
if it's the game plan. Do you think potentially it's the game plan because we have so many more weapons than we had last year? We have, to your point, a lot more speed than we had last year. And when we hand the ball off to Bowser and he gets 3.5, 4 yards, it's just you're kind of like, all right, we're making it to second down,
and that's fine. It's needed. It's necessary to do that. Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's why we're like, what's going on with him? But hopefully nothing.
And
right?
he's gonna bust one at some point. We all know that. They just probably, were keyed in on that. That was the one thing that their coach was probably telling him to stop. Stop number 5. Stop number 5.
Yeah. To his credit, he took some. He had. I think we know
he ran hard.
Yeah, I think we know who the Wild Knight
people.
is. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he took direct snaps at the end of that drive in the end of the first quarter. He took like 3 direct snaps in a row. The third one for a touchdown. So I mean, he adds that to this offense. He's our Joey Gatewood, if you will. That's
Speaking
for sure.
of, we didn't really see that type of a thing.
Right.
We thought maybe we would see 2 quarterbacks in the actual game. We thought maybe we would see, something like that. We didn't. Maybe that. I'm sure that's coming where they're going to trot somebody else out there at some point.
Yeah. I think part of that is
because that's a Gus thing.
Well,
that's always been a Gus thing.
I think part of that is one, get JRP as many snaps as you can to get him used to, being in a live game again, especially as against someone like this, to get him prepped. And I think the other part about it is, I don't think he would burn Mikey Keene for plays like that. I don't think he'd burn those. I think that's a respect thing more than anything else, and I think he might be already thinking about where his future is, and they may have had that conversation.
Yeah, they might have. I actually don't think we're going to see this. The Gatewood stuff we saw last year.
You don't?
No, not with Mikey.
It doesn't have to be with Mikey. It could be obviously with Castellano.
Yeah, but you
maybe.
saved him.
I think.
Because we saw it with Parker Navarro last year as well, not only Gatewood.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I think that is because Gus was actually asked that question in the press conference where he announced the starting quarterback. And he was asked, you think you're going to do 2 quarterbacks, and he basically said no. And now obviously that's a coach in a press conference before the season starts. So
I think what he meant by that though was 2 quarterbacks, like alternating or doing
fair.
more stuff like that, not
That's
just
fair.
a wildcat.
What I thought was interesting is about those plays that Bowser took the direct snaps. I mean, JRP's in those in the game. He's on the field.
Yeah,
and
he stays in.
So I thought that was interesting
I'm sure
as well.
at some point you're going to see another quarterback come in there because you could run JRP out there as a receiver and throw everybody off.
He was lining up on the left side of the field as a receiver during those. So,
but with another quarterback out there as well. I just think you're going to see that. It's way too early in the season.
Of course,
you don't show them everything the first game because you don't want them to have tape on stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit
I wouldn't
of
be
that.
surprised to see an O'Keefe flea flicker off of that play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, O'Keefe can throw the ball too. We've all
he was
seen
a quarterback
that,
in high school.
And, you saw him throw it at least once last year.
Yeah.
Threw a couple touchdowns, I think, at least one.
There's a crazy like record that Quincy McDuffie I think has that he scored 4 different ways in one game, and O'Keefe has a chance of like breaking or
absolutely.
joining him in the record books for that one. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I just don't see Castellanos because I don't think you burn his red shirt because he's the quarterback
I don't
of the
think
future.
that they can play in 4 games.
Yeah.
So
No, I know that, but
I don't think he's the quarterback of the future either. But that's another. It's Tommy. It's Tommy. Freaking
Timmy McClain.
Timmy McClain.
Yeah, Timmy McClain.
Timmy or Tommy?
Yeah, I think Timmy McClain is definitely the quarterback of the future. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. I guess it's a hot take. I don't know, but I think there's a reason he's not playing this season and he's redshirting this season. So, and I don't think that. I don't know. Does that redshirt thing even still with all the transfers and everything? Is that really?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it still holds.
Yeah.
Is that a big deal though anymore?
Yeah,
I just don't feel like
you don't want to
it's
lose
really.
a year of eligibility. I mean, not
Yeah, you could
You
transfer.
can play 4 games now.
Yeah.
Full games.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that.
But we're happy with our starting quarterback, JRP. So let's
let's
focus.
happy with it.
Let's keep him sliding.
So
Yeah, healthy. Yeah,
so
we need him
since
healthy.
we put out Ask Knightline, we should probably get to that
Yeah, let's
because
do it.
we're a ways in here and haven't even done that yet. So let me get to my Ask Knightline. They're kind of still coming in, which is kind of weird.
And great.
And great, yeah, I appreciate. There's new names this time. Zeebles did ask a question though again, and Zeebles UCF Zach, and he actually explained his name because I was questioning that last week.
I thought that was great.
Always kind of it's awesome. So I'm going to start out with. I'm just going to go from the top, and these were the last. This was the last person to ask a question. I don't remember getting a question from this guy before. Rocco at B-Ball Guy in 1985. And this one's a little bit weird. And I appreciate the question, obviously. So don't take me wrong here. But he says, can you help get started the "Move Back, You Suck" chant that they have done at Florida Gator home games when the opposing team gets flagged for a penalty? If people can get that chant going throughout the stadium, that would be a good accomplishment. I completely disagree, actually. I don't want to do anything that Florida has already done. Let's do our own thing. If we want to come up with our own thing to do, like, I don't know, basketball, when somebody gets penalized, it's you can't do that chant
you can't
comes
do that,
out.
yeah.
If let's do something different. Let's not go on and do something that Florida has already done. We don't want to be anything like Florida.
I agree.
In fact, we want to stay as far away from that as we possibly can. We already have, love Knight fan Stan to death, but it's kind of, like what the, what do they call him?
Mr. Two Bits.
Two Bits, yeah. So it's kind of a gimmicky thing like that. Knight fan Stan is completely different than that, and I'm perfectly fine with that, and he is a UCF icon. I'm not saying that is a wrong thing to do.
I saw Knight fan Stan in the wild the other night. I saw him at dinner
yeah?
Friday night. I was hanging out talking with a Knight fan Stan for a little
He's
while
such a
in
good dude.
Gators dockside over there in Apopka. Yeah, so
such
it was
a
cool.
good dude.
Yeah, he's a great
I love
guy.
him,
Great
and I'm
guy.
not by bringing him up in 2-bit whatever. It's not that I'm trying to compare the two really,
No,
but
Stan is his own man.
he is completely. Completely, if you've ever talked to him. I love him, though.
He's the man.
But I just don't, and you guys can back me up on this. I don't want to do anything that, or not. It's up to you. I don't want to do anything that Florida's already done. Let's come up with our own chant if we want to. If that's a big deal and everybody wants to do that, let's come up with something. In fact, Rocco, maybe you can come up with something different. Maybe you can be the leader in this whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's. I agree with you completely. I think it's too. I mean, we don't need to imitate them. We've already beaten them.
We're better than them. We don't need
well,
to.
I mean, we don't even need to. We don't need to act better than anybody. We don't need to imitate anybody else to be like to make ourselves feel better. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of things we do at basketball games. There's a lot of things we do at football games. I mean, I feel like the Zombie Nation thing, while other universities do that and probably started at the same time, the combination of that with the bounce house there's nothing like it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I the old school, the keys, and all that. Like we don't really do that
Unite!
anymore. Yeah, we don't really do that anymore. Well, not the Unite. That was well before
I
Unite.
know.
That was stupid,
We're not
but-
talking about the patch here. But yeah, we do a lot of great
still
things
have
at
that.
all of our sporting events,
I have one of
basketball,
them, too.
football included, that I think are great and what makes us unique. I mean, I even like the Avicii song, the Knights, the Knights that Never Die. I mean, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's a great thing that is relatively unique to us because we're the Knights, right? So
Right.
it's really cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Let's do our own thing.
Roger, do you have anything to say about that?
No, but
Thank
I
you
will-
for your question.
But I will
I'm not-
Yes.
say one thing. The other thing that I really enjoy, and I know this is a little controversial, but the fact that we say Knights in the middle of the national anthem, and that has gone on to other things too. Some people hate it. I love that we do it. The only place I didn't do it was at Navy, just out of respect. But everywhere else, I think that's an amazing thing.
I grew up in Kansas City where we say the home of the Chiefs at the end and the home of the Chiefs, the
Yeah.
whole state. So I'm totally good with that. I've never had a problem with that, and I'm a very patriotic person, so never ever had a problem with that. So thank you for your question, but we're gonna put the
Well, he asked.
No,
can
we're
we-
going to challenge him.
yeah
to
challenge
help us.
him.
Yes.
Let's challenge him. Yeah,
Help us.
we're challenging
Yeah.
you to come up with something that is unique. So appreciate it though. I do want to ask one question while I'm thinking about it because I wasn't there. I had to work and just got home for the second half, basically, to be able to see the game. How was the beer in the stadium? How was that whole situation? Did you see a bunch of drunk people that you normally wouldn't see? Was it a problem? Did anybody get puked on?
I thought so.
I'm sure somebody did.
Roger might have a different take on this, just because you sit in better seats than I do. But thought
he
it
sits
was,
in seats that alcohol is available.
That's what
normally.
I mean.
And
That's
you-
what I mean.
yeah.
So it didn't quite change for Roger the way it did for me, but my experience was great. I mean, it was great. I didn't see any drunk people. Now it's a Thursday night game, like whatever. Maybe you'll see that on a 3:30 Saturday game, maybe. But I didn't see have any issues on that front. I thought the crowd overall was great for the challenges that we had with the weather and all that Thursday night game.
And the students especially.
Yeah, I thought it was a great crowd, and in general, and then I'll say about the execution of beer in the stadium for the first time. I thought UCF did a fantastic job. I mean, they had beer carts everywhere. I mean, I didn't have to wait
So
in
you
line
never.
once.
Okay.
I didn't have to wait in line once.
And they
to
had
grab
people
a beer.
walking up the stands and stuff, throwing beers out.
Now that I didn't see in the.
But it
the
was easily
area that I was-
accessible.
oh yeah, I mean going down.
There was
and-
enough of it,
yeah.
unlike water fountains at the very first game.
Right.
Yingling was going to make sure of that because they're the
Yes.
official sponsor.
That's fine.
So.
Which I love
Yingling's good
Yingling,
beer.
so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
worked out great. So I thought the execution of it was really well done because it just never was an issue of getting it or waiting in line. I thought, and the whole talk about increasing the concessions and the amount of point of sales and all that, I think that really paid off, and it's going to pay off for the bigger games as well because the lines were much shorter, even given that it wasn't like a slam packed house like it's going to be on Friday night. But I thought that you'll even notice that on a big game like Friday night that it's easier to get concessions or a beer.
Okay. Well, I'm going on Friday night, so I'm
Yeah.
excited about that.
Are you going to be in the cabana?
I don't know where I'm going to be.
The reason I say that is what they did do for the cabana folks, so I can give that perspective,
Yeah.
is that they did increase the number of folks at the bar.
Oh,
So the lines, when I went to go get drinks, I went twice. I was in line for less than 5 minutes
Oh,
each
that's
time.
awesome. Yeah, because it's been ridiculous in there before. Like 30 minutes, 40 minutes to waiting for
Wow.
a drink there before. Yeah, absolutely crazy. I've learned now just to go all the way to the top and there's a bar up there.
Yep,
So,
there is. And a breeze.
and a breeze, and I love the view from up there as well. I like to go up there and just stand and watch the entire field from up there. What a view from at the top of the stadium. Okay, back to the Ask Knightline questions. Of course, my face is in front of a microphone, so I can't get my phone open. There we go. Golden Knight 2 at Golden Knight 2. I know it's the first week, but this team, as good as fans and certain media claim it is. Okay, I'm going to start over. I know it's the first week, but is this team as good as the fans and certain media claim it to be? I don't think a tune-up game against South Carolina State is a good measurement. What game would be a good test to see what this team is capable of? You're going to get it on Friday night. I think that game is going to be much different than this one. And I just feel like a quality opponent. And if you're looking at FCS for a quality opponent, that's probably one of the top quality opponents that you're going to get because they were very good in their conference and everything else. But I think Louisville is just going to be night and day, between this. Definitely, an ACC school, much different, especially with the athleticism and things like that. So I think this week will be really, the point to tell the story of kind of like really where we're at versus the first game.
All right, so for me, I'm going to go with a little bit of history real quick. Our great teams always killed the FCS opponents, right?
Is killed the right word? No, I'm just joking.
Well, okay.
I'm playing.
Eviscerated. How about that?
Eviscerated.
Eviscerated.
Be,
Another
right.
word for destroyed.
Killed. Yeah. But realistically speaking, I mean, look, there's plenty of examples in week one, if you looked at the rest of college football, of FCS teams that either pushed or won against FBS teams, some ACC teams, some other teams, etc., right? To Andrew's point, and he said this multiple times, this was a good FCS team. If you look at their roster, they had size. This wasn't a small team, right? I think Syracuse's defensive line was smaller than SC State's, and they just beat the Cards, right? So I think that I think this was a good test. I think this allowed us to try things out, and I think it allowed us to get the kinks out. But it's not the same thing, to Andrew's point, as playing the Cardinals. So I think SMU
and the Louisville
is for
fans
me.
are pissed about getting beat by Syracuse. So so are they really that great of an opponent? We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What happened last year? The right before we played them, they got beat down by somebody. I don't remember who they played, but then they came and played us, and they played like world beaters. So
right.
And with a chip on their shoulder, and
they're going to have a chip on their shoulder this week after getting
it will be a
embarrassed.
physical game again.
Absolutely.
And I think our guys will be pushing just as much as what they did last season, because they hurt people last season. 5 starters went out.
I think one of the big things is that it's at the bounce house though versus in their stadium.
This game. Well, his first question is, do we have, actually it's Golden Knight 2, so his or her first question. I'm sorry, Golden Knight 2. I don't know if you're a man or a woman, but it says this team is as good as the fans and certain media claim it to be. I would say if they claim that this team is good, they are. I would agree with those fans and certain media. This team is good. There's no doubt about that.
Special.
Has a high ceiling. Let's put it that way. Has a high ceiling. So health, and potential fulfilled can certainly play a part in that. So I believe this team. I'm very encouraged by by what I saw the first week, and I'll agree with both of you. This is a true test. After they did what they needed to do against the FCS opponent, we dominated them, and this coming in. Louisville has a big edge to it. The game has a huge edge to it for our guys and their side as well. This is the first big real test of the season.
Now, I'm just going to point out one quick thing. Look at the number of 4- and 5-star players that are on our squad this year. Now, we talk about recruiting. We celebrate those that we win. JRP, Bowser, Lee Hunter, who will play this week that didn't play last week, right? Javon Baker, the linebackers we didn't see, Brandon Jennings and Terrence Lewis. All these guys, when you look around, Kobe Hudson, number 1 receiver for Auburn last year, it's a mix of the guys that we brought in and brought up and like O'Keefe that looked great, that was a 3-star, but there's a ton of 4- and 5-star players on offense and on defense. So when you start thinking about, can this team be good? Can this team be great? yeah, I think we're better positioned now than probably we've ever been from a personnel standpoint on what their potential is.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with you there. All right. Marquise won, or I don't know. I don't know. M. John A.D. Johnson. Yeah. There you go. At MJ John whatever. This one's a hard one. We
always struggle with this. We have throughout the years.
Yeah. So he or she asks if you could play head coach for the upcoming game, what schemes and plays would you use to make sure the Knights are victorious against Louisville on Friday night? I'm going to throw this one immediately to Roger, because Roger is always talking about schemes and things like this. So I just want him to stop the quarterback. That's all that I really care about. I want us to score a lot of points and to stop their quarterback.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Andrew. I appreciate it. A couple things. There's defensive and the offensive side of the ball, right? This defense kept SC State under.
Wake me up when Roger's done.
Yeah. That was my very own sound effect, guys. But legitimately speaking, they kept him under 100 yards, right? And Malik Cunningham is going to be the key to this game offensively for the Louisville Cardinals. We saw that last year. He has games where he's off and on. I'm not as worried about him passing the ball, because I think defensively we've got good enough DBs that will keep them in check. They do have good wide receivers, but I have a lot of confidence in that group. So schematically, what I'm trying to do is maintain the edges, right, and keep pressure on Malik Cunningham. If I can flush him while maintaining the edges, he's got nowhere to throw. So he's going to run, and if you disguise your blitzes, and I talked to Trey a little bit about this later when I asked him. I was like, do you just go with an overload blitz when you're blitzing? I would push him to the boundary away from his throwing shoulder, basically, right? I want to push him so he has to throw with his left hand versus his right hand, so I'm going to push him towards that boundary. If it were me, if I got the pressure with...
Is he an ambidextrous quarterback?
Yeah, I didn't. You mean throwing to his right side as opposed to his left side, like rolling to his left?
Does he throw with both hands?
Whichever way he favors, right? I want to keep him the opposite direction of the field.
I see what you're saying.
So I'm going to put pressure to make sure that I'm pushing him the opposite way he throws towards the boundary.
I mean, the guy is not Patrick Mahomes.
No, he's not.
Mahomes can throw with both hands.
He can throw upside down and between his legs and still. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Underhanded.
Yeah. Behind the back.
Love the guy. I'm sure he's done that.
I wish
too.
we had Harlem Globetrotters music right now. But legitimately speaking, I'm going to pressure that side of the field to push him towards the boundary, and then I'm going to disguise my blitz and bring that Knight. And I'm going to bring that Knight downhill, and I'm not even going to spy him. I wouldn't even spy him. The one thing that I don't know about our defense, we've heard about Lee Hunter this entire offseason, right, during camp. Mm-hmm. And we did not get to see him play because he was out this game. He is a beast, another 4-star guy that's going to plug the middle. If we can stop the A-gap and the B-gap, we can play with the edges, and that's where you beat Malik Cunningham. Offensively, when we were talking about scheme, what's going to be interesting to me, that defense that's playing right now is going to be used to a mobile quarterback because they have Malik Cunningham, right? So if they have Malik Cunningham and they're used to that, I think what I'm going to do, and I think Gus actually did this in this game if you watched closely. He had to play with Ryan O'Keefe. He had our running backs with Richardson doing the A-gap, B-gap, or A-gap usually, both sides of the A-gap. You have Bowser. That's a known quantity. It's going to be quick. It's almost done.
The rest is going to be quick.
Yeah. So the point is, I think he's set up for this game, right? That you've got JRP. He showed that he can run.
Just messing.
I know. You've got Ryan O'Keefe, right? And I keep saying this. And you've got 2 running backs, and you've got a tight end. So realistically speaking, you've got 3 running threats on the field at any given time. So I'm going to run a lot of RPO, right? And I'm going to slip that tight end out into the seam, and if he gets loose, if they're going to crash to try to control that, if they're going to crash their defense down to try to control our running game, I'm going to pop it to that tight end every single time because he's got hands, and we haven't had that in the past. Holler had some hands, but he has a, if they go and they try to cover the tight end and our receivers, which are also dangerous, by the way, then I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to run that RPO all day, and I'm going to run it down their throat early with Bowser, and then to soften them up, and then I'm going to go sideline to sideline and wear them out.
So Roger has answered Marquise One's question.
Yeah, completely. What he said.
So I'm not going to talk about scheme in my answer. I'm going to simply reiterate that I think that if you gave Travis Williams truth serum and asked him truth serum, and asked him what was the one game that you like that you were most excited about on the schedule this year, I think you would say Louisville.
Yeah.
I mean, because we got to remember that Malik Cunningham made us look bad, and in turn, he made Travis Williams' defense look bad.
Right.
And I think he wants to.
SMU would be a close second for that one.
I understand, but that game, the Louisville game was different. It was just different overall. Because of the injuries, yes, but because of what it meant at that point in the season, going into the Louisville game, we still had a thought that we were New Year's Six bound, and we were gonna go into that season, and it was gonna be, the best of the best of, the ceiling was, very, very high. Coming out of that Louisville game, it was because of the injuries, yes, but also because of what happened in that game and how we got kind of pushed around. And outplayed by a dynamic quarterback. I think Travis Williams is ready to bring this unit to that game and really show them what his defense is in 2022 is all about.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting.
It will. And I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Now to Zeebles. Zeebles, thank you for your question, whoever you are. I can't remember.
Marquise
yeah,
one.
Marquise one.
Asterisk.
And yeah. Can't understand that one. We'll have to find out where you came up with your name, too.
Or Marquis.
Anyway, UCF Zach at Zeebles, which is really one of my favorite Twitter handles, UCF. Yeah. First of all, his question or comment seems like there are some concerns on the offense, mostly praise for the defense. So what did you like about the offense, and does anything concern you about the defense after one FCS game? I'm not nearly concerned, and I said this earlier, and I probably should have gone straight into these questions because we talked a little bit about this anyway. I was concerned about the linebackers. I am not concerned about the linebackers anymore. I'm still a tad bit concerned about, the running from JRP. He needs to slide a little bit more. Really, and then the special teams, the biggest thing is the special teams and their penalties and the missed kick and all that stuff. We've kind of already talked about all this stuff. Maybe you guys have something a little different. I'm not nearly as worried as I was before. I'm sure there will be things that I'm worried about after this week's game, though.
I mean, yes, we've said it before. I'll just reiterate what did I like about the offense. I like the use of the tight ends. I think that just adds a huge boost to our offense that we didn't have in the last couple of years. And then and what concerns me about the defense, I mean, you just said it. It was really. They didn't give us a whole lot to be concerned about in this game. Yes, we held them to under 100 yards, but we did see on defense and special teams just some penalties that you want to clean up overall, especially in the beginning. There was more in the beginning that just kind of seemed a little silly.
So for me, defensively, I think we've got a really solid unit. I think we've got the ability to isolate offenses to quarters, right? So not just half the field, but quarters of the field because we have good defensive backs and we've got a good pass rush, right? Offensively, the only thing that I'm really too concerned about is going to be the cohesion of the line. So we have folks that are back, right? We've got 3 folks that are back, but we've got 2 new folks that were transfers that were brought in, and we've got 1, Sam Jackson, that was moved in his position, right? So just having enough snaps for them to play together, that left side, is it Grable or Grable? Tylan Grable, on that left side, he was letting guys come free, and that I think and I feel like watching that was him not knowing exactly or not being confident in knowing where he should be and how he should block and his technique to protect the quarterback. So that's the only thing really that concerns me right now offensively. Everything else I think is humming. I think they've got good rhythm. And defensively, I'm not really too concerned other than penalties. And I did see some miscues on the defensive backs and the cornerbacks in communication in where they were covering, where we got a little lucky. One of them, we had that defensive pass interference where a guy got loose streaking down the right side of the field, and I think that was Nakai Martinez that was covering him at that time. And he that was his guy, and he can run with him, but he was a freshman. He was a little confused, and he resorted to that. That could equal points in a close game.
Okay, cool. All right, and then Zach Zeebel's replies, which is great, and this is what I've always wanted to know. And
we want this interaction.
He's finally told me where the name came from. When I was young, my friends and I saw a Jack Black movie where he went by Jables. And in parentheses, we assumed because his initials were JB, my initials are ZBB. So genius middle schoolers came up with Zeebles. So I've used that for my screen names forever. Wish it was cool. Wish it was a cooler story. That's a cool story, though.
It is.
That is a cool story. It's all good, man. Thank you very much for letting us know. So there's, I'm literally, I think I'm getting a couple other ones here this is like real time stuff here. Rocco has replied to his own question like 3 times. So he's
while we're talking.
Yeah, I don't even really want to. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You can go to the tweet if you want to see that. But blah blah blah. I'm trying to read this other one. I don't know what I know. I'm sorry. And I do have that.
No. I'm just trying to fill the dead air.
Yeah. No, well, it's not really dead air. I'm continuing to talk. And I'm wondering if this is a reply. Oh, no, this is something else. Okay. This was weird. Somebody replied to a tweet from 2018, which, whatever. Okay, so that wasn't part of it. So those are the Ask Knightline questions. We need to get to a commercial. We're an hour into this thing, so we'll be right back after this. Thank you for your questions. Love it. Ask Knightline is really cool, and I'm so glad that you guys interact with us.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. All right, back with you here on Knightline. I forgot about
You remembered, and then you forgot, and then you remembered again.
Right, exactly. So there was someone who messaged me that did not want his comment out there for everyone. But I don't have to, just because he didn't want it to be known who he was saying this, but I will say that this is a former player. So this is one of the he messaged me a question or a statement,
comment and a question.
Yeah, comment and a question. So concern ? I don't put negative comments towards UCF athletes for public display, but at our offensive line got pushed around in a big way against South Carolina State. Richardson made good runs because he's elusive. Isaiah Bowser is an absolute beast and had to fight for inches. That's not going to work the same way against Louisville and other competition. Our old line did not look good at all. Now, I'm not going to agree completely with that they didn't look good at all, and they did have some issues, though. And I don't know if we talk about it with Trey a little bit later as well. And I agree with what Trey said, and I'm just going to tell you now. He said, a lot of it may have to do with a little bit of first game jitters or something like that. And their defensive line for South Carolina State was pretty good. They had big guys up front. Those are probably their biggest players and some of their best players, and they're known for having a really good defense. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to leave it at that, and that's what I think it was. I don't know if there's too much concern about that. Yes, we were talking about that a little while ago. Roger, I think you brought it up where, some Sam Jackson was moved around and all that, but he's played every position on that line and can play every position. So maybe it's just those guys gelling in the formation that they're in or something like that. Yes, it could have been better. Yes, it could have been a lot worse, so I'm not too horribly concerned about it. I think that will get better as time goes and these guys have a little bit more time together to gel.
Yeah, I would say that if you really tried to, which we have, watched it back and try to nitpick the best you can. Yes, we didn't really seem to be able to open up any inside runs the way that we were used to with Bowser last year when he was fully healthy. And so maybe there's a concern there just because he didn't have really holes to run through, right? So you'd like to see more of that or more chances to see that against Louisville and moving forward is get the inside run game going a little bit more because we have, as we've all talked about, we have such dynamic players on the outside that and dynamic plays that we can run to the outside as well, that having some inside runs to keep the defense honest and move the chains, I think we'd like to see that moving forward a little bit more.
So for me, couple things I'll say. I agree with you on the run, right? So on the passing, JRP really wasn't bothered at all back there. He had time to scan the field and throw those bombs, right? What I did notice from JRP is there were times where he was still looking down the field and the pocket was collapsing where he had green in front of him and he didn't run through the gaps, right? And when you've got an RPO type of offense, when you don't know what that person's going to do, I feel like with Bowser on the interior, because the interior line is pretty much unchanged, right? You've got the same center, and the interior line is the same, so the gaps and opening up the gaps should be similar. I feel like some of what you saw was us holding on the ball a little bit too long and not shooting those gaps more quickly than we should. Richardson got away with it because he allowed blocks to develop. If you watched him, he's more patient. He's waiting on the lineman on the left and the right side to push that line before he shoots the gap, and then he's gone.
Also, Richardson's play calls were more to the outside than Bowser. I mean, just by design. I mean, it's just Bowser's the guy going through the middle. And Richardson, you're right. A couple of those, he did look a little McRae-like. You know, he was doing well with the, you know, setting up his blocks a little bit better. But, I mean, Richardson's just getting the play calls that take into the outside, and there's just a different blocking out there. And a couple of times, the wide receivers, I mean, the one touchdown that he had, it was a pass. It was an outside pass to him, but the wide receivers blocked great on that play, and Richardson scooted in there for the end zone.
I didn't see anybody pulling on those plays that were shut down for run. You know, and that may be because you've got Grable on the outside, and you got the transfer from Virginia, Swoboda, on the other side. They may not be ready to do that kind of switching to really do that intensive blocking inside. So that may be a part of it too. But I think the run part is definitely something that's going to hopefully get better, and it's a concern. I think the pass blocking was really good.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you for the question or a comment or
both.
Or both, yeah, about that. Appreciate that, and you're more than welcome to ask me or give these things to us more often. I like that. I was like, oh, I have a private message from somebody, so cool. And thank you. Appreciate it. We'll not let anybody know who you are, and that's fine. So anyway, so that's actually the end of Ask Knightline. Roger, what do you want to? Well, gosh,
you guys want to mention special teams at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did a little bit. I think we need to get Trey's thing going here because we're getting where this is going to be like 4 hours long if we're not careful. So
we're excited about football.
Yeah, let's I need to play another commercial real quick, and then we'll come back with Trey, and then you'll hear us a little bit after that. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
All right, joining us again, as always this season, Trey Neal. Trey, what did you think about the game? And what's your initial thoughts on the game against South Carolina State the other day, week 1 of UCF football?
I think overall it was a really solid performance. There were things, small things that they had to work on, but I mean, overall the offense played really well, looked sharp, defense was sharp. And special teams, we gave up a little punt, fake punt earlier. But other than that, we had a block punt for a touchdown. Messed up my prediction. But overall, it was pretty good. That was pretty solid performance. I think they dominated like they should against a team that they're more talented than.
All right, Roger, do you have the predictions written up, pulled up? Because we can just go ahead and get that over with as well.
Yeah, remember, I have it on the show notes. So,
I you know what? I didn't even ever look at those. So
oh, my God. All that work. I slaved
fairly
over
normal
these notes.
for me. Fairly normal. While he's pulling that up, defensively, what did you not like? Anything that you did not like defensively that you saw that couldn't be a problem?
I wouldn't say they did anything I didn't like. It's hard to gauge when. I mean, I felt like they dominated pretty much the whole game. The only things that I kind of maybe were just technique stuff from DBs, but I mean that's just what I do. I look at that. But other than that, they played solid. I mean, schematically, they looked like they were sound. They didn't look like they had too many busted coverages, which is, that's all you can ask for. And the linebackers in front, they were getting after it. So defensively, I mean, I didn't see anything really outstanding that was crazy.
One thing that I liked that we haven't seen as much of, I felt like we saw it a little bit more this time, was the corner and safety blitzes and rushing the quarterback. I like that stuff. I always, when I played, I was like, yes, send me, please send me, So I didn't get to do it very much, but every once in a while I did, and I was always like super happy to do it. What do you think about those? I mean, I think you did that a couple of times as well.
Yeah. I've done my fair share of blitzing. But I love it. Just to get those guys, mostly because the O-line's really not accounting for the DBs blitzing a lot, mostly because you're either coming from depth, which is where most of the safeties, the nickels come from, or it's those corners where most O-linemen aren't looking, all the way out to the sideline for a blitz. So they're looking for the guys right in front of them that they kind of account for. So I love it. Gives the offense a different look. And it also challenges the quarterback to make sure that they kind of know where they're going with their hot read. I don't know if, we dive into that, but there's always a hot that they should have. And I think that's kind of something that quarterback and receivers have to work on. So when you send those blitzes, if they can't make that read, then this should be a sack or they're going to throw a pick. So.
Yeah, that creativity that I saw on defense. I mean, yourself, Trey, Andrew, Roger. I mean, you could talk the technical stuff all day long because you guys played the game. But as Andrew said, I'm a basketball guy. I love football. But even I could see from the stands where I was sitting, just the creativity on defense. I think that was what was exciting most to me. And as you mentioned, some of those creativity specifically with some of the pressures. It was not only the timing of it when they wanted to provide QB pressure, but also the personnel that they use. You mentioned the safeties and the linebackers and the corner blitzes and the angles. So I definitely agree with that. A lot of creativity on defense.
Definitely.
Yeah, from my side, one of the things I noticed was our linebackers were in the backfield. I mean, Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste was shooting the gaps quite regularly. I mean, he was constantly back there, our defensive ends, Tremont Morris-Brash. What I'm interested in, when you kind of looked at what we did this week, there's the 4-3 and the 3-4 that we played. Next week, we're going to be playing a wholly different type of opponent with a truly mobile quarterback. What do you look to see for next week out of our defense? Are you thinking they're going to play more of a 3-4, or are they going to go a 4-3? Because I saw a lot of pressure from Tremont Morris-Brash and the defensive ends. So I'd like to kind of understand from your thought process, how do we contain Malik Cunningham?
I think it's more so because he's uber mobile. He's an athletic guy. So I guess it's really going to be dependent on what their O-line, how good their O-line is. If their O-line struggles, I guess, interiorly, then I don't see them doing too much pressure if they're anchors. If he's scrambling just up through the gaps, then I'm not really sure. But I know that if their O-line is picking up blitzes and doing that pretty well, then you don't blitz them. You just sit and you have a spy on them. But if their O-line struggles with stunts and stuff like that, then I could see definitely more a little bit more blitzes, a little bit more creativity. But ultimately, you never want to change your entire defense. Whatever those guys are, if they're 3-4 heavy with the personnel they have or 4-3 heavy, that's what they're going to rely on the most. So I think that's just, I guess it's going to be game plan specific. You'll know early though, what they do. You'll definitely know early.
I mentioned last week having a guy like Timmy McClain, just how mobile he is on the, running that scout team in practice and being able to kind of play the role of Malik Cunningham. How valuable is that if you've ever experienced that on your teams that you have, if you had an athletic guy that could run the scout team and just really give you a different look that you might not see week to week necessarily, but it's somebody that's as dynamic as Malik Cunningham coming into town. What's it like having an asset like that on your scout team?
I think it's big, just because you can kind of you can gauge the speed, the movement, the escapability. It's hard to duplicate that if you don't have it. I remember when we were game planning for USF a couple of years back, we actually moved one of our wide receivers to scout team just because he was a really shifty guy, and that still didn't even kind of simulate it because he couldn't really throw. So I think that's a bonus to having Timmy, him being on scout team this year. He's a guy who's the actual quarterback that's mobile, so he can kind of simulate what Malik does, and I think that'll help them a lot. Just practicing against that speed and kind of figuring out what they're good at and what they want to do, because I think they're very similar types of players right now.
Well, that's funny because, I'm just hearkening back to Scott Frost running that Navy scout team for you guys back in.
Running the option.
I mean, who was better? I mean, realistically speaking, like 40-year-old Scott Frost or your wide receiver friend. But
yeah. But I'm not going to lie. Coach Frost ran it pretty well as far as the reads were quick. I mean, I was surprised he still remembered, some of those keys. He just wasn't as fast as he was 20 years ago. So
I will say, one of the things I did want to kind of on the flip side of this is kind of, people have been talking about our push on the interior line, right? So what did you see? Because they were playing a lot of zone against us. What did you see that was making it tough for our linebackers to hit those interior gaps, or not our linebackers, our running backs, to hit those interior gaps? Bowser had a tough time of it from the outside, etc.
It looked like they were kind of slanting their D-line and doing a lot of games. I noticed that the left side specifically on passing down, they were struggling with a little tech stunt where the D tackle goes and splits and the DN loops. We struggled with that a lot. I kind of just chalk it up to, first game jitters and just, again, seeing a different body that you haven't seen and, you haven't ever seen it. You're so used to going against your guys. It's just those jitters. But really, I was surprised by the interior penetration, mostly because they were slanting a lot, which I think that can cause a little bit of problems just because Bowser's not like a fleet-footed guy. He's more of a downhill, smasher. So when you kind of slant somebody in his face, it's hard for him to stop and start again. It's just not a problem. It's just that's just where a guy like Johnny Richardson, who has quick feet, kind of helps offset those kind of issues. But it was interesting. I was surprised that we kind of struggled with those slants a little bit.
All right, back to the defensive side of the ball. Anybody who stood out to you that you were either surprised about of the way they played, or good or bad, or just somebody that surprised you on defense, or something that you really saw that you really liked?
I love the way that I'm a safety, but I love just the dynamic of corner. I love the way that number 12, Justin, Hodges. Hodges. I love the way he was playing. And then even when the freshman came in,
Nakai Martinez.
True freshman 21, yes.
Nakai Martinez.
When he came in, I mean, they look like the same player. And I was surprised. They're like, oh, this is a freshman. I'm like, well, he's going to play. He's special. Just the way he came out and how explosive he was moving. Him and 12, they were catching my eye a lot in the back end. Mostly because they were getting a lot of action. I mean, they were in a lot of zone. They were coming in a lot of blitzes. Just just showing the versatility of their skill set, I think that just jumped out to me.
Those were the two guys
early.
that had the sacks as well. So Hodges had one, and Nakai Martinez had one as well. So, for sure. Nakai Martinez, we were excited when they got him. He's from Apopka and all that. So, close here, and we were all really excited to get him on the team. And now, we saw him in the very first game, yes, as a backup, but he was in there and he made a difference. It's good when a freshman is that hyped, and then when he goes out there and actually does something. You've seen all the hyped guys, so it's just nice to see one of those guys do something. I told you last week that I was worried about the linebackers. What did you think of the linebacker play specifically?
I thought it was I thought it was solid. Again, I think it's going to be one of those things where Baptiste is going to have to carry them. I think it's one of those he's going to have to play his butt off, to say the least. I think he can, as you saw early on in the game. He's shooting gaps like a maniac, which, those things are kind of they can be boom or bust depending on the scheme. But if you do it right and you just trust your instinct, you'll make a lot of splash plays. And I think if he can do that early, it'll allow teams to turn into passing teams early, which kind of plays into our strengths where we have a lot of DBs who are talented and let Bash go get the quarterback and let some of these guys get the quarterback. So I think that's key, just him being able to make plays. And that'll loosen up and make life easier for the other guys, the younger guys to come in and play with him. I know I saw a lot more sub this game, so I saw 15 and then they'd mix it up, but I think that's what they're going to rely heavy on is him kind of carrying the load.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as worried as I was now that I've seen the linebackers play a game. And yes, this is an opponent that wasn't, as spectacular as some of the other ones. I think this week will tell a much bigger story with Louisville.
Absolutely.
But I liked what I saw from those guys, especially Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste was pretty happy with the way that looked. He was second on the team with five total tackles. Walter Yates.
I was just about to mention him.
Yeah.
I was just about to mention him. I think they're a great combination in the linebacking core because Walter Yates just has such speed, Yeah,
he was athletic.
7 total tackles versus Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste's 5. So he led, well. And if you look at the stats, it's not just one guy doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it was very spread out with who had tackles for loss. I'm just looking at the defensive stats here, and it's everybody had 2 tackles, 3 tackles, 5 tackles. Really, Jean-Baptiste and Yates were the ones that had, anything more than 3, but so those guys obviously stood out in when you're looking at the stats. So
exactly, and I think that's what you want. You never want. I was always told you don't want your safeties, leading your team in tackles because either they're running the ball or they're just throwing it all game. So it's one of those things where seeing those guys at the top, that's the best thing because everybody else is going to get involved in other aspects, and I'd like to see how those two are leading, and then everybody else just kind of falls in place everywhere else.
And then Devad Wilson with the interception that was pivotal as well. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Tip drill.
Yeah,
that was it
was a very athletic play. It's a lot harder than you think. Making that play off of balls that are tipped like that. So
I know all too well, and lots and lots of tip drill for me when I was playing back in the day. So. Lots of balls thrown at weird angles and
the body control on that interception.
Yeah, the ball spinning everything but a spiral.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what they said that cornerbacks were always wide receivers who didn't have hands. So it makes it that much harder.
Oh yeah.
So, kind of going back to defending someone that's like Malik Cunningham, let's talk about JRP, right? So he was very fleet with his feet. He had 86 yards and on 15 carries and did really, really well. So the question I have for you is, was that a byproduct? Because he did a lot of that escaping defensive pressure. So, was that a byproduct of just the speed or athleticism of South Carolina State, or is that something that we would expect from him to be able to continue as he kind of moves up in being challenged by opponents that have better athletes?
Yeah, I think it's I think that's just kind of his style. I remember seeing him a couple of years back when he was at Ole Miss. He was making all these crazy plays running the ball. So I think naturally just, because as old as he is, he's still kind of new to, just everything. I think that was what he's only started a couple of games in his career. So, I think that's just kind of what makes him, I think, great. I also think that, he escapes a little bit too early. But, I don't want to take anything away from him because I think that's what makes him, so special is his ability to run like that and be explosive. But, we'll see. We're going to play, an ACC team, Louisville. So those guys, they should have the athletes as well. So we're going to see how he really matches up, as, just going on. And if he's just panic running or is he making the right read, if he's getting blitzed, stuff like that. But, I definitely want him to learn to slide a little bit more. He's a frisky kind of fella back there.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from him either. So I'm going to comment on this. And we were just discussing this, Roger. Your stats are a little skewed. He netted 100 yards, so I do want to make that clear. That's a big deal for any quarterback. To net 100 yards, he had 116, and then with the losses and stuff, netted 100. Mm-hmm. That's big on 16 carries.
I think there's no doubt he's going to break the single game rushing record by a QB. I think it's only like 116 yards for a quarterback at UCF.
McKenzie never ran for anyone.
Oh yeah, he'll do
I think there's no doubt he's going to break that in a few games this year and kind of be top 3 by himself in the record book there.
I just worry about him running around like that. I think we all have a little PTSD from what happened to McKenzie. So every time I see him run, and especially wearing number 10, I'm like, no, just slide or head first or something. I'd rather head first than taking some of these hits that he's taken.
It's something I know. Go ahead, Trey. I'm sorry.
That's really what I was more so worried about is just he's lowering his shoulder on guys, and he's not a small guy.
And he took people out. There were guys that were laying on the ground multiple times from his hits.
That touchdown run in the first quarter was dynamic. I mean, he broke like 4 tackles on the play. But
the guy is shifty and very, very speedy. There's no chance.
But it's one of those things where I used to tell McKenzie all the time, like, I wish we could just make it one period or we could hit you. And that's how defensive guys are. Like, they want to hit the quarterback because we're never allowed to. I mean, even if we grace them, it's a flag or we can't hit him in practice. So these guys salivate at it. And the fact that, he runs a little bit early, I was like, okay, you can get away with it one. But I mean, he was lowering the shoulder on guys. Like, he was a running back. And I'm like, listen, just slide, man, because the team needs a quarterback. We don't need you getting hurt because my shoulder's out of place. Now, if you're playing, you're completely one-dimensional. And I think it's just something being smart.
He actually hurt that SC State guy when he lowered his shoulder.
There was 2 or 3 of them that were laying on the ground after. I mean, it wasn't just one.
He's a good runner. I'm just, I'm thinking long game. Those things start taking a toll. I mean, quarterback, he hasn't been hit since last time he's played college ball. They don't get hit in practice. They don't get hit in live scrimmages. Everybody's live except the quarterback. That's how it always is. So he can't. You don't want him taking all those hits.
I'm hoping that he got a little bit of a talking to this week.
Yeah, me too.
After that, just like, look, kind of try to slide or something. I mean, freak things can happen too. We saw it last year, the Louisville game. Freak thing happened. Dylan Gabriel out for the entire season. And I don't want that to happen.
Trying to make a tackle, right?
Yeah, it was like the very last play of the game or something. Oh, what a mess.
2 things I noticed when I rewatched it on TV because I was at the game. But 2 things I noticed when I rewatched it on TV. One positive, one negative on the front that we're talking about. Positively, I think when he rolls out, he did do a good job, especially since it was his first time playing QB in 2 years. I thought he did a good job of keeping his eyes downfield when he's rolling out of the pocket. I think negatively though, and this is more just something that I noticed on a few plays. It seems like when he's doing the read option where he can hand it off to running back or keep it himself. It seemed like on a few of those plays, Bowser would have had like a clear path on the left side if he would have just handed it off to Bowser, but he kept it himself. He made a great play too, running the ball, but it almost seems like he should be handing the ball off more to his running backs. Hopefully he'll make those reads as he gets more comfortable with that position and his teammates for that matter.
Definitely. I also think it's one of those things where, it's your first time, new school. You want to kind of make your mark and just kind of show how dynamic you are. So I get it. But, I'm always against better teams. They'll make you pay for pulling it when you shouldn't and stuff like that. And I also saw like they run a little bit of RPO a little bit, and he'd pull it and just start running. And I'm like, if you hit your guy, that might, instead of a 5-yard gain, you might have a 10-yard gain. Which again, we're kind of just nitpicking at this point. But I think just over the long haul, you kind of want to build that rapport with your guys, and just not want to get all those hits, obviously, because again, you're the starter. Of course, we have faith in the guys behind you, but you're a starter for the reason. So we want you to keep you as healthy as possible, and just make the reads. If they're telling you to give it, give it. If they letting you to pull it, pull it. Don't try to be a superhero every play. You don't have to do that.
Well, if there was any doubt in anyone's mind whether he's a baller or not, that's gone now. There's no
Dude can play football.
I mean, absolutely, and I wanted Mikey Keene to win that job. I really did, but now I'm full in. I'm full in with JRP now because I mean, just unbelievable stuff that he did. He did make a few throws that weren't
overthrown,
weren't perfect. There were a couple times where he should have probably thrown it away and he didn't. And it's the first game and all that stuff. But I want to talk real quick about Ryan O'Keefe.
That catch.
The catch and then the speed to come back and what was it, a fumble?
It was the fumble, and he ran 96 yards basically to go
96 yards to catch that guy. But did you?
He was about 25 yards behind him, but
the burst of speed that kid has, like JRP was there running too, and he ran right past him.
Well, and he was on the ground when he fumbled that ball. He was on the ground. So not only did he just see them start running the other way, he had to get up off the ground with tacklers on top of him, and he caught. And the only reason he didn't catch him was because he was blocked by.
Yep.
But just
exactly.
Ryan O'Keefe is a freak athlete. I don't care what you say. He is a freak athlete.
I texted you guys after the game that was my favorite play of the game, and I think it displays his championship mentality. I mean, he was 20, 25 yards behind that guy when he said, "Not today. You're not getting in the end zone," and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that, and then we held him.
A lot of other people.
We held him.
A lot of other people would have quit. On
that's what
play.
I mean. It's just
and that kind of stuff inspires. That makes you pumped as a defense. A guy that is running across the entire field just so that they can't score a touchdown. It's like, I just did all that. All right, we're gonna help our brother out. He just saved us from getting 7 points on the board. Let's go save him. Let's help him out.
Right.
And then that's what the defense did. I think those kind of moments. I always go back to it. I remember so many times where I saw Traquan Smith chasing guys down, stuff like that. And that makes you, your brother's going all out because those guys don't tackle. It's easy for them to just be like, I'm 25 yards behind.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but the fact that he ran full speed, I mean,
he deserves that C that's on his jersey.
No doubt.
Exactly, and that's what that C that represents. You're going to go balls to the wall for your brothers, no matter what, and that's what it stands for.
Yep.
So that was probably my play of the game.
Yeah.
As far as me, because of what it represents of the season.
And that catch that he made probably shouldn't have been thrown.
No.
Probably should not have been thrown between the two defenders that were right there. But for him to make that catch, not get distracted by the two guys waving their hands in front of his face and everything else and being right in front of him, not to hear the footsteps of both of those guys and to have the wherewithal to make that catch is massive. I mean,
And it was a risky throw. I'm not even gonna lie. But
Oh, yeah. Shouldn't have been
like
thrown.
you said, the concentration, that's a hard catch to make just in that kind of traffic. And he's not a huge guy, so that's one of those things where you can take a lick. I'm surprised that nobody hit him, but that's a tough catch. In traffic, two guys, one guy diving, one guy on you. That's a hard catch. And so props to him, man. He's a good football player, just all around, and probably even better captain. So.
I'm a big fan of
yeah.
Ryan O'Keefe now. I wasn't before, not that there was any reason not to be, but like just the stuff that he did in this game, like made me 10 times more of a fan. Those two plays, really.
Exactly.
Just amazing stuff. Real quick from the other guys here.
Yeah, since we've been talking about offense, I thought something that we've been clamoring for years, basically, or last few seasons especially, is just the involvement of the tight ends in the offense. And I felt like with Keymore Gamble and we got Zach Marsh-Wojan, caught his touchdown pass. Just talk about that. I mean, because it's something we've been looking for as Knights fans for a few seasons now, and when you got we have some athletes at tight end, and it was great to see them get involved.
Yeah, that's when I was playing with Jordan Aikens, Jordan Franks, Coob. Those guys were mismatch nightmares. I mean, you put a safety on them, they'll just try to body him. You put a linebacker on them, they're running right by him. And I think that's what Gamble brings to the table. He's athletic. He's a big body. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", 240. And can run. I mean, and some of those plays he's making, diving and all that, those are really athletic plays. Everybody can't make that play, let alone, a tight end. So that's the dynamic that, to me, that's always a game changer for an offense. When you have an athletic tight end that can run, catch, that's not afraid to get his nose dirty in the run game, stuff like that. Those guys are mismatched. They're nightmares to guard. And then you add the fact that JRP's mobile and you have the speed guys. I think this offense has every skill set you need to be an elite offense. And I think because of the tight end, that's what puts them over the top. I think, we've had guys that were like that in the past, but the tight end position was just that one where they were good, but I think this group has a chance to be great. So I think that's big.
Yeah, he slipped out on that rub route when on the right-hand side, and the turf monster got him, but that would have been a for sure touchdown.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
That had shades of a few seasons ago. But, to your point, I mean, kind of one of the things we talked about is, you've got a running threat. You've got Johnny Richardson, which we haven't even talked about, right? He had 5 carries, and he was gone. I mean, you look at him, and he's gone, and he's that shifty back. And he was actually shooting the interior gaps because he had that speed and that cut ability, and he has patience. Exactly. If you watch him run, he'll let the blocks get set up. He'll actually stand behind his lineman and then just cut left or right, and he's gone, right? And he's got a little bit of green grass. Exactly. So you've got O'Keefe back there, who is always a threat, and we saw that a couple of times where, either through a screen or he's got a reverse going on. You've got John Rice, who's a running threat, and then you've got one of the running backs that's a running threat, and then you've got, on that RPO, you've got someone you can dump it into that's pretty sure-handed and athletic in our tight end spot. So, there's, as a defense, and you can speak to this probably more than I can, there's only, when you're balancing your schemes and you're trying to set your schemes up, there's only so many ways that you can defend that, and you have to pick your poison. So if John Rice can figure out pre-snap, whether it's a disguised blitz or not, you really can't stop all of that as a defense with the number of people that are on the field, right?
Nope. You have to, again, it's like you said, you have to pick your poison. When you go against teams like that, there's something you just like, all right, for example, if Bowser gets a 4-yard run every time he runs it, we'll just have to give that up. But we're not letting Plumlee scoot out for 10 yards every time. We're not going to let O'Keefe scoot out for 10 yards every time. It's one of those things where you just have to you have to give up something and just hope that, for example, Gus isn't going to run, Bowser 50 times for 4 yards. Some coaches they get anxious and they want to throw it and just try you. And that's what you have to hope for. And that's one of those things where I think no matter how much our offense struggles, they're always going to be able to move the ball because of that threat. I don't think that there's anything that should stop them. You know, if they have to run it 50 times to Bowser and he gets 4 yards to carry, that's fine. We're just going to wait the clock out, keep getting first downs, keep scoring, and then that's the game. But I think that it's just so hard to defend that you have to give up something.
So, for the Cardinals next week and Malik Cunningham, so I'm thinking about how to stop him, right? You can stop one side of the defense with offense with an overload blitz, try to funnel him to the boundary and use that to your advantage, right?
Yep.
Would you rather do that, or would you rather rely on trying to leverage your buck and then bringing down to kind of, set the edge and then try to bring down your DBs, kind of like what we saw in this game?
I mean, if it were me, I would always – I'm going to see if we can do it, get pressure with him, keep him contained with 4 first. I never want to show – I mean, I'm sure they have plenty of blitzes like they did this past week, but I don't want to show those early because you might need them late if it were to be a close game. You never know. So you don't want to show it early. Oh, I remember this. And the offense, like, I remember this look. So I would just let them get with 4 and then, again, funnel them to the sideline, funnel them to the boundary, and just try to contain him. But, again, he's so athletic. If you go in with the mindset he's not going to get any yards rushing, you're going to be disappointed. I mean, he's an athlete. And he's going to make plays. You just have to kind of, when he does make a play, just be like, hey, we just didn't do this. Let's do this. We're going to contain him. And, yeah, that's what I would do. And if you struggle with that, then you start showing some of those exotic blitzes. Because the thing is, we play with 5 DBs a lot. We're going to have the speed to run them down. And Bethune and the 15, they can run. It's not like we have slugs out there who can't run with them. If we just send some speed at them and corner them and don't allow them to get started full speed, then we'll have a good time, and it'll be a good defensive scheme to stop them.
All right, one last thing I want to ask you about. We've taken up a lot of your time so far. I want to ask you about special teams. Special teams was kind of a bugaboo this time. Especially, and I've played a bunch of special teams. I'm assuming that you've played some special teams as well.
Oh, yeah.
What do we have to do about this holding? Especially, that's the biggest issue because we've got guys, obviously, that can run them back.
Oh, yeah.
2 different situations that were called back that really were great. Kickoff returns and punt returns, one of them for a touchdown, and they were called back by holding. What do you do about that? Do you just have to everybody has to remain disciplined? And it's a little bit harder, right, when the guys, those guys are super fast.
Exactly,
So,
and I think that's where you kind of use when you have dynamic guys back there, you should just trust, like, all right, I don't need to hold him for this extra 2 seconds because I know my guy, if he were to get up to make a tackle, he's going to make him miss. So it's almost like you have to trust that, you might not hold your block for 5 seconds, maybe it's 4, but that 1 second, your guy is so good that all he needs is 3 seconds, 4 seconds. You don't have to make an elite block, all the time. So I think that's just something that as they go in practice, now that they've experienced in the game, they just have to learn, like, hey, this is the quick clock we have. If you feel like you're holding, just let go. Don't try to get that extra little half second or extra little shove in, because now you're talking, like you said, a touchdown coming all the way back, and those are momentum changers for both ways. So I think it's easy to kind of work on it. You just have to kind of understand it's a feel. Hey, I'm blocking. All right, I probably should let go right now.
It's never a good thing. Sorry, it's never a good thing to leave points on the field, but we left points on the field with the special teams, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We also
and
gained
it's
some
all
points.
Holding penalties. So, and when it's holding penalties, it's like I get you're trying, but you have to find that happy medium. Because the guys back there are so dynamic that if you mess up, if one person mess up, they can kind of make you right. That's how we should. I remember when AK was back there, I'm like, look, I'm blocking for 2 seconds. I know he's so fast that he should be passing me in 2 seconds. I'm like, he should be passing me in 2 seconds. So there's no way you're catching him in a foot race. So that's how I used to think about it.
Right on. All right, so we need your prediction for this week. What do you think is going to happen with Louisville and UCF on Friday?
I think it'll be close early, but I think we pull away. I'm going to say 34-13. 34-14.
Okay.
We're going to win 34-14. I think it'll be close at halftime maybe. And then I think they're going to come out and just put them away. Hopefully we just put them away from the get-go just because the bounce house is going crazy. But
right, yeah.
I think we're going to finally see a team that might have a little bit of, they should have the same kind of speed that we have, just recruiting-wise. They should be a talented ACC team. And, a mobile quarterback always gives people problems. So I think if we can stop it early, we'll blow him out. But I don't think that he'll be able to, I don't think it should be anything close like last year. I think we'll put him away.
All right. Well,
34-14.
34-14. We have it recorded. Roger, you got that? 34-14 for him. All right, man. Thank you so much. This was awesome. You're doing a great job, and we're looking forward to talking to you next week as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Go Knights and charge on.
Go Knights, charge on. I'll be up there Friday, so I'll see you guys there.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
All right, back with you here, Roger. What do you want to talk about next? I know we have some things that were planned here. Good to talk to Trey again. I think he's doing a great job. I hope everybody loves him as much as we do doing that. I love to hear defensive side of things instead of more offensive minded person. Obviously Kyle, we miss him and all that stuff, but I think Trey's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, we're happy to have him.
Excited to have him. Roger, what's next?
Well, we need to talk about the Angry Birds a little bit in our next game. So why don't we kick off real quickly and give a brief overview on that?
Go ahead.
All right. So we are Andrew's favorite matchup predictor has us as a 78.6% favorite. The lines were around in between 5 and 7 points in our favor. I think this loss to Q's, they played Syracuse last week, and I think everybody was a little bit surprised. Syracuse hasn't been a great team, and they won 31-7. As I'd mentioned earlier, they have a smaller line and pretty much dominated them. So that looked up for us, and I think that gave us and the matchmakers basically a little more confidence in us. They averaged, obviously, 7 points per game this season because they've only played one game. They had 334 yards last game versus UCF 600. So they really, really struggled offensively in this game, which is good for us. They allowed 449 yards, which is a ton of yardage, especially to a team like Syracuse, which is not a traditional power. The DB play, I kind of watched a little bit of the highlights, etc. The DB play was not impressive. They had pretty good defensive backs last season when we played them. This season, I just was not impressed against Syracuse. The last game we did play them, which was that heartbreaker that we were talking about, they did win 42-35. So really, this is a revenge game for us. And the keys for me really is we talked about Malik Cunningham, and he's really the key for Louisville, maintaining the edge and making sure that we can get pressure on him. He's not a very accurate quarterback. He's accurate, but he's off and on depending on the game. So if we can continue to get pressure and keep him off balance, I think we'll be in good shape. Our DBs, I have confidence in their ability to maintain coverage on their receivers based on what I saw. And, obviously the O-line we've been talking about the whole time, if we can open up those run lanes and get a little bit more, the ability to gel a little bit. I do think that a lot of what our O-line's issues were that we've injected 2 new people from the outside relatively late through the transfer portal into our mix. And, if we can protect JRP, I think we're good as long as the receivers can keep their hands on the ball. I think those drops can be a bugaboo and those penalties can be a bugaboo. So if we can avoid those 2 things, I think we'll be in good shape.
All right. So I just want to say, I'm just looking at Malik Cunningham's, he had a horrible game last game. He 16 of 22, 152 yards through the air, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. So I had a horrible game. Right now, in fact, he's ranked quarterback rating 106th. So he did not have a good game at all, and they got trounced by Syracuse, 31-7. I mean, just got destroyed by him. So I don't know what that has to do with what's going to happen this week, but it was not a good look for Louisville at all. So hopefully they play like that against us. I would really love that. John Rice Plumlee ran for more yards than their running back did, their leading rusher. So that's interesting as well. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. They got pushed around, though. So I hope we're favored by 6.5 at this point, and I hope that stays like that. I haven't seen it move really too much. Yeah, so it's all good. I mean, I just want to come out of this with not a lot of injuries like we did last year, and win the game by a lot.
I think personally. This is, to your point, I think that this is going to be a chippy game for us as much as it was last year, right? That there's a lot of people that remember what that game was like last year. And the Cardinals, I mean, I wouldn't say they played dirty, but they took some shots. So, I expect that that chippiness, I don't think they'll be surprised by that. Remember last year, the game before that the Cardinals played, they did not play well in that game, so there was a lot of confidence for us riding into that game. I don't think these guys will be surprised, and I think they'll be out to prove a point.
So yeah, it was. I looked it up just because I remember that as well. I remember them coming into that game last year with a bad loss on their record, and it was actually the third game of the year for them. I don't know if it was the second game of the year for us. Regardless, but that loss was Ole Miss. They lost 43-24 against Ole Miss, and then they destroyed Eastern Kentucky 30-3 before they played us. So they were limping a little bit. They certainly wanted to get the bad taste out of their mouth with Ole Miss, but they did. Cunningham was, like I said, like we've been talking about, Cunningham was dynamic in last year's game, and we have an edge to us going into this game. I don't care if you played in that game or not. The people in that locker room were affected last year based on the Louisville game. And we have kind of an interesting history with Louisville in general. I mean, it goes back to the 2013 season with Teddy Bridgewater versus Blake Bortles, and it was an amazing game that we came out on top at their place. Charlie Strong and all that was on their team, or was the head coach of that team, and we that was kind of the jumping off point for that 2013 season. So. Last year's game, I think it makes this game mean that much more, and I think we're ready to bring it. I don't anticipate what happened last season to happen in this game. I think we're a far better team. Maybe not far better team, but just the health. That was if we don't have that. I think we're fine.
I'll say that. And that could be a hot take as well, but.
Full year under Gus,
with
right?
the weapons that we have this year compared to last year,
especially at receiver,
especially at the receivers. I was literally going there. You read my mind.
And then Bowser went down early in that game too. We did not. We
Bowser was already banged up because he got banged up in the game before that. Mm-hmm. I think that was our third game of the season. I don't know.
Potentially, but he had so many carries in the Boise State game. He was great in that game, but certainly. Early in that game, he got hit on his knee and he was basically done. And then obviously just the way that ended.
It was our third game last season. We had beat Bethune-Cookman 63-14 and Boise State before that 36-31.
Yeah. So anyways, I mean, we've talked about the kind of strategic side of it and what we need to do. We have to put a bottle up Malik Cunningham any way we can. He's not their. I'm sure he's not their only dynamic playmaker on their team, but he is their. Louisville is going to go as Malik Cunningham goes, and so I think we've got the weapons on offense to outscore them for sure, especially since some of the things you saw.
Yeah.
And then we've got athletes and players on defense, maybe even more so than we had last year, to contain Malik Cunningham and come through with the right victory. I really do agree with you on the secondary part. I mean, I feel like this year's secondary just allows the front seven to just do so much more than maybe last year's, just because the comfort level that our defensive coaches have with kind of that safety blanket back there. I think allows us to take more chances, which for the most part should work out in our favor, exponentially.
Single high coverage, and I also expect us to see a lot of man. And if we can do that effectively, and get Malik Cunningham off his game, I don't. If we can contain him, we contain the running game, and we do that with blitzing, and we can blitz if we can go single high man coverage on this team, because that frees up that night position for us to come crash them down.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but I do know that we for sure should be. I hope our coaches are looking at that Syracuse tape to see what they did, because Syracuse dominated them
the entire game.
The entire game. So I hope that we have a score similar to that. I hope that we score a little bit more points, but we'll talk about that in a little while.
And we are good at home. There's no doubt about that. The bounce house is going to be rocking on Friday night, and that is going to be a huge advantage for us. That's a big difference from last year.
The spread did move a little bit. It was -5 for us as a 5-point favorite, then went to 5.5, then went back to 5, and then all of a sudden went to 7 and back up to 6.5. So I don't know what that news was. I
think
believe
it's the Syracuse game.
One of their players. No, this was after the Syracuse game.
Oh, okay.
They don't start. This was starting on the 4th. I think that for some reason, I heard that one of their star players of some kind is not playing this week, and I can't remember who, but I saw a conversation, I think it was on Twitter, with their fans, and their fans are just very upset. So, and a lot of them are dreading even making the trip to Orlando that are coming. So I think they know something that we don't. Roger, what else besides Louisville? I think we've talked a little bit about that now. So you mentioned something in the intro about the Big 12. What happened in the Big 12 this week?
Yeah, so the Big 12 this week kind of surprised some people. We all know that we've been putting feelers out in the infamous "We're open for business" line from Brett Yomark. To the Pac-12 schools, right? So the 4 corner schools, as they're called: Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. And so there's been this back and forth in the Pac, actually, because they were a little worried after UCLA and USC left for the Big Ten, or announced they were going to leave. They opened up their exclusive rights for television negotiation with their rights holders early, which is ESPN as the primary rights holder. So the advantage to doing that is they open the window, and once they get through that window, if they don't come to an agreement, then they can go out to the rest of the television executive landscape and kind of get a feel for what their schools are worth. So what the Big 12 has done, and
they have ESPN and Fox, by the way.
Correct.
Yeah.
They have gone out and they have now opened up their window. Now, it wasn't the exclusive window, which means that they are now able to negotiate, get firm numbers, not just what these consultants are telling them they're worth, right? They've been able to go actually talk and negotiate. Hey, what does this look like? What does this look like if we bring 4 schools in? What does this look like, with our current makeup, etc.? But they have not initiated the exclusive window, which means that they would still, if they like what they hear, they would still have to move forward with the exclusive window with their current rights holders to extend. But it looks like they're going to try to extend and modify the existing agreement with ESPN and Fox with Tier 3 rights. The understanding is that the Tier 3 rights would still belong to the conference and not the rights holders. So the timing with the Pac-12 deal and Texas and Oklahoma is in the mix here as a trump card, to say, hey, we'll let them out a year early, which would work because ESPN got...
You have a lot of free time, don't you?
No. No, I don't.
You have a lot of free time to know as much about this TV negotiations.
I
didn't even hear about this story. I didn't even get an ESPN alert
I knew
on
that
my
they opened
phone.
it up early. I was about to, I'm learning this on the fly.
So,
Lord
it interests me because
Roger.
I'm in the what I do for a living. So, for me, it's interesting because it's a negotiating tactic, and for us, it could impact us because there have been statements made by Terry Mohajir recently that he expects that we would have a high potential to have additional folks join the Big 12 before we officially join. So the makeup of the Big 12, everything that's out there, they're really shooting to expand early.
Okay. Well, good. I mean, speaking of expansion, this is one of the things that I kind of want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, you talked about this in the Open as well, 12-team playoff. They've finally said that they're open to doing it before 2026 or at 2026, whatever, possibly before. Finally. It's about time. And now that we're going to a Power 5 conference, it matters, but it doesn't matter as much, I don't think, if we would have stayed in the group of 5, in my opinion. I mean, yes, it's exciting. That's awesome. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that? I mean, I don't know why they haven't made it a real tournament like the FCS does anyway,
right?
Personally, and I've said that for years. So 12's better. We have a better chance of getting in there, but I think with our automatic bid conference anyway, really, conference champion, if you're the conference champion of the Big 12, you're probably going to be in it.
Have a great record in the Big 12, with one, good.
But this does. I mean, they're not going to do it this year, so it doesn't help us that much this year.
I agree with you that we would be probably. Well, I'm excited.
If this would have been last year, we would have been ecstatic.
I'm a as a college football fan, as all of us have said, 4 is just. I mean, it allows. It's not just the super conference, the top conference.
4
it's
is
the top
stupid,
schools.
and it's always been stupid.
Exactly. So, as a college football fan, yes, I'm excited about the 12. I agree with you. I actually hadn't thought about that. We'd be much more excited, if we were part of the
group of 5.
The group of 5. Prior to this announcement. Now, obviously, I'm still excited about it. I think it adds a lot more excitement towards the postseason in college football. I think it adds to even the athletes that play in the top bowl games now for these schools. Now, I mean, those bowl games now matter or will matter once this comes to play, where you won't have certain, first round, second round, third round, even draft pick prospects that are foregoing their last game of their college career because they don't want to get hurt. Whereas now you'll have 12 teams vying for the national championship in that first weekend of bowl games, wherever they decide it may fall. And I think that just adds another level to the postseason in college football that we've been needing, because everything that's happened with this 4-team playoff has just kind of pushed in a weird direction where, like I just mentioned, the athletes that we never saw before that would play in these bowl games because it meant something for an Ohio State player to win the Rose Bowl, for instance, and you got and you have that changed in this current format, and then I do like the 6 highest ranked conference champions, and then 6 at large. We'll see where those 6 at large, come into play. I'm sure we're going to be complaining that they're all Big Ten and SEC schools, but still, the 6 highest ranked conference champions guarantees that, that chance for those, schools that are thought less of in the current system.
So even looking at the top 12 from week 15 last year, So even if we just took that top 12, no conference champions, any of that. So Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, Cincinnati were the top 4, and that was the playoff. So this would have added Notre Dame, Ohio State, Baylor, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Utah, and Pittsburgh. If we were just going with the top 12 in the college football playoff rankings, that would have been much more exciting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, much more exciting. So, So
a few things on
there
this.
you go.
They're looking at either 2024 or 2026. So in the past, right, the big thing that Kevin Warren, the commissioner, was worried about was he...
How do you know these people's names?
Because I read this stuff. So Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten...
Nerd.
Well, yep. I remember the spreadsheet conversation from last week. I mean, come on. But at the end of the day, he was against it, and this was where the alliance came from, was 1, because they were trying to protect the Rose Bowl, and 2, because they wanted to take this out to all of the media partners and not have it ESPN exclusively, because it's estimated to be worth an extra $500 million to all of the participants, right? So one of the things that we have to kind of think about when it comes to this is what does it do to scheduling, right? One, you'll have less out-of-conference games, more than likely. They did say that they were going to stick with the proposal that was sent last year, which Bob Bowlesby was actually one of the big proponents of that, right? Which means that outside of the top 4 games, they're going to play those on campus, which is pretty cool, because if UCF is in one of these games and they're ranked high enough, you could see one of those games come to the bounce house. So
we're going to add like 15,000 seats for that
it would
game
be impetus. It would be impetus for it, right? It's not like softball where we can put some bleachers out there. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
But that's really cool. But I do think it may affect us, like with our out of conference scheduling. So if you're thinking about that Florida game that we have scheduled in the future, I also think the timing of this was post expansion, because as you mentioned, 6 and 6, right? Those 6 spots will more than likely be taken up by more SEC and Big Ten teams, because I don't think those teams would have come, Texas and OU, right, if they were in the SEC and they had the same number of slots, because their chances of getting into the playoff were much lower if they were in a 16-team conference versus staying in the Big 12. So I think there is. I think they did this for a reason. For us, as far as our ability to get into the playoff, I do think it. I expect that the Big 12 will be, one of those top 6 conferences. What's going to be interesting is how it affects the distribution, because part of that autonomy or Power 5 label, right? It's uneven distribution between the G5 and P5. So if we get a similar piece of the pie of that $500 million, that's going to be an injection of cash. No matter what our TV deal is on the next one, that'll be significant for us as a program. So going from estimates of 35 to 40 million, now you're bumping that up to 50 million plus. So I think it could make a huge difference for UCF.
I think if you went back in the history of the college football playoff and those years, the Big 12 champion would always be in one of the top 6 conferences, like as far as highly ranked, right? So I think that when you look at it from that perspective, just to comment on what you just said there, is when you look at it from that perspective, it's like we now we win our conference, we're in the playoff, we're in the postseason.
Right.
Think about that. I mean, that's something that is something that UCF has never, Cincinnati, BYU, anybody you think about, that's joining the conference. I mean, we just haven't had that opportunity yet. And so to me, it pushes it further towards the golden postseason that is the March Madness and the NCAA tournament for basketball, right? Because that's exactly what it is. I mean, you win your conference, you've got it. You are playing in the postseason, the big one, and so I think that for that alone is great that we're in the Big 12 because of it.
It introduces the Cinderella element, right?
Yeah.
And I think that keeps the rest of those college football fan bases and that content that's on ESPN Plus, et cetera, interesting. And for the season, you're not getting into week 13 or week 14 and nobody's interested anymore because it's only going to be 4 teams in the playoffs. So I think viewership's up, keeps fan bases engaged. The G5, I mean, think about this. The Pac last year, and now you're getting rid of USC and UCLA, right? They were really close, and so was the ACC sans Clemson, and Clemson is not doing what they're doing anymore. They were pretty close to the AAC. So if you have the Western Kentuckys, I mean, I don't think this will happen, but there's a potential in one off year you get 2 G5 teams in there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Good deal. I'm awake again. Yeah, no, it's exciting, and it'll be interesting to see how it's done and everything else. So before we do the Tijuana Flats hot take of the week this week, let's talk about what we did last week.
All right.
So Trey was 49-10. Ben was 42-0. Last week, Roger was 49-17, and I was 55-14. So does that mean I win? I was the closest.
You were
5
closest
points
to the
away.
pin. Ben, I was going to go, from the lowest to the highest, for a drum roll. So that would have.
I was the worst in our FCS opponent where it could have been anywhere.
Yeah,
it could have been all over the board.
So
It's all right. You're a basketball guy. It's okay.
the way that we rank, AP was the differential there was 5 points. So he is the winner for this week.
And I will continue this.
Oh, all right. So then Trey, our football analyst, he was 7 points off. So he would have been number 2. I was 14 points off, so I was number 3. And Ben was 24 points off. So 3 scores off for this week.
All right.
Thought we were gonna. South Carolina State had never scored against us ever. So I thought we were going to continue that trend.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would have loved it if it was that.
Well, sans the punt block, and
So some weird things happened that game.
So
beginning of the second half,
Trey
was
right on their scoring, so they were 10, right? Didn't they? It was 56-10, yeah.
Correct.
And I was 1 point off of what we were going to score, so I said 55,
yeah.
14. I don't know where I came up with 55, but whatever.
You changed it. You were lower than that, and then you were like, nope, I'm going 50.
Well, since it was a competition, I didn't point out that 55 is a real hard number to get to.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, where did I come? I just picked a number, I think. I don't know. All right. We'll come back here in just a second, and we'll do this week's Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. All right, time for the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. You know that I love Tijuana Flats, and it's early in the week, so I haven't been there yet this week. I will definitely be doing it. If you have a chance, get to Tijuana Flats. They are awesome. So who did we? I don't remember who we started with, but Ben, I'm going to start with you this week.
I'm not going to provide any extra commentary to what we already provided on this show. I'm going to say 35-21 UCF Knights.
All righty, Roger.
I've got that recorded, and for me, I actually, after this week's games, I had a number in my head, but I actually increased it because I have a lot of confidence in our team. And I'm going to say that UCF wins 42-17.
Okay. All right. So mine is 52-14. I think they're going to score on us twice.
We're going back-to-back 50-point games.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we have a very, very stout offense, and I think that we're going to be able to do the same thing against Louisville. I just think that it's at home. It's, and that's way more than what we're favored by. So I'm just going to go, I like hot takes. So if I win, I win. If I don't, yeah, it's all right. It's not that big of a deal. So,
well, should we remind everyone what Trey's is for this week?
Oh yeah, what was Trey's again?
He came in at 34, so one under Ben. 14.
Okay, so we're on about the same. We're exactly the same because I said 14 as well. So I was going to say 21, but I think our defense is a little bit better than that. So 14 as well.
My original was going to be 38-14, but I figured after this week for both teams, I'm going to up my game a little bit.
Okay, all right. Well, when we return, then news and notes. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, number 23 women's soccer is 2-1-2 after dropping a game 1-2 against number 13 Ole Miss at UCF Soccer Complex after a 1 hour. After a 1 hour light. Oh boy! After a 1 hour lightning delay.
They've got the football lighting going on.
Let's start. Can we start over? No editing. No editing. This is fun. Anyway, after 15 minutes of play, they had to stop. The teams were evenly matched with each achieving 4 shots on goal and 10 shots overall. Thursday's match against North Florida was ruled a no contest due to weather. The team will head to North Carolina and take on the number 1 Tar Heels on Sunday, September 11th.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one, and I know our head coach is as well. UCF men's soccer match at Florida Gulf Coast last Friday was ruled a no contest as well for weather. It stopped the match in the 39th minute for an almost 2-hour delay, so they called it. The match was tied 1-1. The Knights did beat UC Riverside today, Labor Day, 3-0.
All right, UCF women's volleyball kicked off their season Friday by sweeping Syracuse 3-0 at home, and followed that up with a huge win versus future Big 12 conference mate Kansas State on Saturday. It was a tough come from behind win, 3-2 that featured 49 ties and 11 lead changes. Next up is UNC Wilmington next Friday at home, and make sure to support the ladies.
All right, I'm always up for a good beating for Kansas State. I'm always happy about that, and I was excited to see that. Congratulations to McKenna Melville, by the way, who became the second player in UCF history and the only active player in the NCAA with 2,000 kills. Wow, that's pretty awesome. That's volleyball royalty. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, that is going to do it for us. This has been Knightline 274. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps.
And I'm Ben Stout. Go Knights!
Charge on!
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield.